Hey guys, welcome back to today's YouTube live session. It's me again. If you don't remember, my name is Eazel. You can call me Teacher Eazel. And for today's video, we are going to talk about work. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. All right, just let me share my screen. Okay. Um, okay, let's see. All right. Okay, there we go. There it is. Okay, so let's start today's lesson with a work quiz. Yay! Okay, so continuing on with the topic of like wants. What would be your ideal job? Would you prefer to, well, we have five questions here. So I'm going to read them all to you as a kind of like listening practice, I guess. Then I'd like you to tell me your reasons for your answers. Okay? So for number one, would you prefer to work for a big company, work for a small company, or be self employed? Okay. And then for number two, would you prefer to have a full time job, have a part time job, or work whenever you want? Okay. And then for number three, would you prefer to work in an office, work outdoors, work at home? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then for number four, would you prefer to work alone, work with the same people every day, or often work with different people? Mm-hmm. And then the last one, number five, would you prefer to have a well paid job, have an interesting job, or have a job which helps other people? I'd like you to tell me why and give your reasons in the comments down below. I will give you a couple of seconds to think about your answers and I'll tell you mine after. Okay? All right. Hmm? Mhm. Okay, so if you ask me, my ideal job is to be a teacher. Isn't it interesting? I have a little story for all of you because I remember when I was a child, I drew this little picture of like our teacher asked us, okay, what's your ideal job? And then I drew this picture of me as a teacher, and look at me now. I'm now an English teacher. It's so interesting. This is a funny story. Okay, so now that I'm older, I guess I have preferences on like that I would like to say regarding these questions. So, for example, in number one, I would say I'd prefer to work for a small company. Okay, so if I work at a big company, I think I would be overwhelmed with the corporate thing. So I think being in a small company or like an academy, that would be fine for me. Yeah, it's like a stable job, I guess. And then I would prefer to actually it's a mix. For number two, it's a mix. I would like to have a full-time job, but also have a part-time job. It's kind of like, okay, I'd like to be a full-time teacher, kind of like in, but at the same time I would also want to work as a as an artist in my free time. It's something like that. So I'm in a pinch between A and B. And then for number three, I would prefer to work um in a classroom because well I'm a teacher. I would prefer to work in a classroom, but I don't mind working at home because I just have to wake up and freshen up a little bit and okay, just here I am, I can work. Right now I'm working at home, but I can see the advantages and disadvantages of it. If I work at the classroom setting, I know that I'm talking to someone, but like this, it feels kind of a bit lonely. So yeah, I would prefer to work in a classroom. Maybe letter B, I guess. Yeah, and um, for number four, I would like to work with like different people and kind of like seeing different people and get to know more about them. It's like, oh, really? You learned this today? And I like seeing my students kind of like and improve their English and be able to get into the next level and those kinds of things. They managed to pass their exams. I was like, yes, it makes me feel happy. And then for the last one, I would like to have a job that pays well. Of course, I need to pay for my expenses, okay? I need to pay for my living expenses. And of course, if I'm going to start a family someday with the love of my life, I need to have a job that pays me well. I mean, it's nice to have an interesting job, but if it doesn't pay me well, it's gonna be, we have to be practical here. But anyway, that's my answer for the work quiz. I'd like to know yours as well too, so I'd like you to give me your answer to this question in the comment section down below. Okay, so let's move on to the next activity. Okay, so now that after we talked about my ideal job, after we talked about my ideal job, let's look at some statements of people who are talking about their job. So, what we're going to do is we're going to complete these sentences by matching numbers 1 to 6 with l- letters A to F. And I'm going to show number 1 as an example. Okay, so we have flexible working hours. Our clue here, I'm going to give you a clue on how to answer these kinds of questions. So, you can take a look at this word. We have flexible. So what does flexible mean? Does this refer to like you doing it all the time or doing it sometimes? Doing it sometimes. Okay, so among all of these options, which one has sometimes? It's letter F. Okay, that's right. So that's the answer. We have flexible working hours. Sometimes I'm here from 7 to 3, sometimes from 10 to 6. Okay? Now that you understand how to do this assignment, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to answer the rest. Okay, then we're going to check the answers. Okay, right. Na, 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 na. Do, 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 do. Okay, so let's add the questions. Okay, so let's start with the first one. With the set number two. We're number two now. The management isn't very good either. So, what could be a reason for someone to say this statement? Okay, wait, sorry. Okay, so for those who said Letter C, they don't listen to you. Well, that's definitely a good reason for saying that the management isn't very good because they're supposed to be the ones on top managing everything. So if they don't really listen to the people below them, it's it isn't good management, right? Right. Okay. So next would be the benefits are okay. So what are some benefits? Let's kind of like think a little bit. What are some benefits? Could it be holidays and healthcare? Yes? Okay, so the answer is letter B. Okay, that's right. So, some benefits that we can talk about and that we could have for our work would be holiday, healthcare, and I guess pension benefits as well. Yeah, some of them. And then the pay's not great. Oh no, what reason could you have for saying that the pay's not great? Money, pay is about money, so we have here I don't have enough money. So the answer is letter A. So the pay's not great, I never have enough money at the end of the month. Okay. And it's a terrible place to work. What's a reason for this? Or maybe in this case, since it's probably not the reason, maybe if you don't like your work that much, what are you going to do? You're going to look for another job. Okay, so for those who said look for another job, D, you got it right. Okay, and then the last one, there's a nice atmosphere. This one's easy. You only have one left. So everyone's easy to work with. That's definitely a good reason to say that there's a nice atmosphere. So what we have here in these statements are actually a way for you to describe your work or specifically your working conditions. Okay. So for example, we can you can start by talking about the working hours. So if you have a flexible working hours, like in the example he worked from like 7 to 3 and then sometimes 10 to 6. But if you have a fixed working hour, you just kind of like say, oh, I work from like 10 to 6 and that's it for my from Monday to Friday, you know. And then you can also say something about the management, if you just want to complain a little bit, like it's not very good, you don't listen to you, that kind of thing. But if you really love your management, you can like, oh, they're very good, they listen to everything we say, they actually take into consideration all of the problems that we have, those kinds of things. And then you can also talk about the benefits of your work, like you can talk about your holidays, your healthcare benefit system, and of course how will it benefit your pension in the long run, like how much money will you get by the end of your working um, years. And then of course maybe you would like to complain about your pay, it's not that good because well you don't have enough money at the end of the month. Or maybe you can say that your pay you are quite satisfied with the pay that you get because you get to enjoy the things that you like to do on a daily basis. Okay, and then if once again, if you just want to complain, it's like it's a terrible place to work, it's like I don't like this place so much that I am going to look for another job. Okay, we can talk about this for like places where you've worked. It's really possible for you to have worked in a place that's just a huge no. So this is something that you could say for that. And then of course, if you love where you're working right now, and you can just say there's a nice atmosphere and everyone's really easy to work with. Okay, so now that we learned some expressions to describe your working conditions, we are going to practice. And I'd like you to think about how to describe some of these things with the expressions you just learned in the previous slide. So just if you're watching the replay, just scroll back, okay? And we have here your job now, your jobs in the past, and the jobs of the people that you know. Okay, so you can use these sentences as kind of like a framework for you to describe the working conditions of these things that are on the screen. Okay, going to give you a couple of seconds for this, then we can move on to the next activity. Okay. Mm, all right. So now we are going to look at two sentences from job postings of my friends Marco and Lauren. And what I'd like you to do is to think about these questions. When did Marco and Lauren start working at CSP? And do they work there now? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to think about these questions. Then we're going to talk about Marco and Lauren. Okay? Mhm. All right. Mhm. Okay. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Let's start with Marco. When did Marco start working at CSP? According to his statement, he said, I've worked here since 2008. So, when did he start working? Since 2008? Yes, that's the answer. That's right. That's right. Very good. What about Lauren? What about Lauren? When did Lauren start working at CSP? So you can see that the time period here is 3 months. So how long was it? 3 months ago. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, do they work there now? Do the both of them work there now? Yes, yes. Okay, very good. Why were you able to say that they work there until now? Okay, so yes, because we've used I have worked and I have been. These are what grammar structure is this? What tense are we talking about? Present perfect tense. Okay, okay, that's right. And let's take a look at these. As you can see in this example, I have underlined two words, since and for. And with the answers that you have gathered earlier from the questions that I have here, what I'd like you to do is to complete A and B with for and since so that you can know how to use these two words. Okay? If you're watching this as a replay, you can just use the sentences in the previous activity here as a reference. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds for this, then we will check your answer. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right. Mm, okay. Okay. So let's take a look at this question. When did Marco start working at CSP? Earlier I said since 2008. So the key word here is when, right? So when you say this, like you can use since. That's correct. For those who said since, to say when something started. So it's like the keyword there is when. When did it started? Like the specific time when it happened. Now, if we're talking about a period of time, we use for. Okay? We use for a period of time. Like in this example earlier, we have CSP for three. Lauren has been with CSP for 3 months. Okay, so that's how we use for and since. Now that we have more or less clarified the use of for and since, let's practice. Okay, I'd like you to write 4 sentences about yourself. Use the ideas below with for and since. Okay, since we are a little running a bit out of time, I'd like you to just write your comments in the write your answers rather in the comments down below. And I'm just going to leave this to you as your homework. Okay, so you can, as an example, you can say I've worked at my present company for about 2 years. And then we have other starter sentence starters here, like I've worked at, I've known, I've been a, I've studied, I've lived in, I've had my. Yeah. Okay, so you can use this ideas, and then you can connect the time period or the when using for and since. Okay. So before we end this session, let's summarize what you have learned by telling me through the comments down below more about your work. So, what's your job like? Do you like or dislike it? How long have you been working at your job? Do you want to move jobs or get promoted at your job? Okay, so that's it for today's YouTube live session. If you want to do more exercises on this topic, you can look at the English Unlimited B1 Pre-Intermediate Coursebook published by the Cambridge University Press. And thank you very much for listening. Until next time, bye bye. Oh my